recognize a Gnani? So the next question was, how do you recognize a Gnani? There are several Gnanis who are realized. How did they get realized? Some of them, we don't see them as studying Vedanta. Some of them are enlightened. So now, please understand, you will never be able to understand who is enlightened in your life. We will never be able to understand who is enlightened, who is realized in our life. Why? Because the enlightenment and liberation is an innermost experience. Our innermost experience, we cannot recognize the innermost experience of anybody. For example, I pinch my hand. You can't understand how much pain I am feeling. The enlightenment or liberation is subtlest and pure, subtlest and clarity, innermost clarity. From we will not be able to understand who is enlightened, who is not enlightened from their external behavior. So, to judge somebody is enlightened or not enlightened is a waste of time and effort. There is only one person who recognize who is enlightened. The only one person whom you can know as enlightened, that's you. When you are enlightened, you know I'm enlightened. So that also you can have false enlightenment. So something you understand, you think I have enlightened. The enlightenment is the inner journey. Only one person whom you know you're enlightened is yourself. You'll never be able to judge who is enlightened in the outer world. You have to be careful. Enlightenment, journey of enlightenment spirituality is a walk on the razor's edge. You can fall anytime. Ego can come and claim I am enlightened already. It is you who have to be focusing on the truth. It is you who should not take rest until you are realized fully. Don't fall to the traps laid by the ego. There will be a lot of aha moments. There will be a lot of joyful moments in our spiritual journey. Don't rest anywhere. So that's like this. A person is looking for wealth. He heard that a monk is there in the forest. The monk can guide him to wealth. He goes to the monk. I am in need of money. Can you show me where the wealth is? Then the monk says, go straight. There's a tree there. Below the tree, you dig. You'll get wealth. He goes there and digs below the tree and he gets silver coins. He's so happy. He comes and spends it. After some time, he spends some whole money. Then he goes to the monk again. Please show me something more. Then monk shows him another tree where he finds gold. He spends the gold also. Then he goes next time again. Again, the monk shows him a diamond. He takes the diamond and spends. Now he gets a suspicion. This monk is showing me silver, gold, and diamond at different places. That means this monk must be having some more wealth, some more wealth, which is much larger than diamond, gold, and silver. That he must be sitting on that. Let me dig below that. He goes to the monk and says, please get up. I want to dig where you are sitting. There must be larger wealth there. The monk smiles and moves. He digs there, there's nothing. Then the monk smiles and says, the wealth is not there. Wealth is in here, the inner peace. So what happened in spiritual journey? Every time some insight opens up, we start getting, aha, this is it. Aha, this is it. That's like getting silver, gold, diamond. Don't stop there. They're all small bonus. You have to keep your journey until you find the truth. The spirituality is a commitment to truth. When you really find the truth, there is a deep inner peace. You know that you have reached. Until that point of it, it's all, aha, very nice, wonderful, I got it. Okay, the journey has to go. Head, heart, and hands have to transform fully. A deep inner peace has to come. So now, you can never recognize who is enlightened from outside. How do you recognize an enlightened person? Because his disciples will say, this our guru is great enlightened. Everybody says he's great enlightened. So we go by reference. We go by, one person who has thousands of followers or lakhs of followers is more enlightened. One person who has not having followers is not enlightened. So this criteria doesn't work in enlightenment or liberation. A Gnani may be so simple. A Gnani may be so simple and so peaceful. He may not have, a enlightened one will not have any external, may not have any external symptoms. He may not wear a normal different dress also. He may be mingling with people just like an ordinary person. Enlightenment is inner reality. Inside, he has inner clarity has removed him all bondage. Okay, he has become free from suffering. Why he will show off? Why will he show off that I am free? So he is peaceful. Okay, there may be some enlightened people, some Gnanis, they want to teach the world. They may want to do some service. For that, they may wear a different type of dress and they may interact. Then you may know that this guy is a Gnani. You'll never be able to find out whether he's a Gnani or not by his service. So, main way, the first primary sign of enlightenment, what we can see is an attitude of service, a love and compassion, which manifests as a service activity. That we can see as a sign of enlightenment. That is not a guaranteed sign of enlightenment. That's one symptom of enlightenment. Somebody who is doing very great service may be a very good human being. He may be still not enlightened. So enlightened one doing service is one symptom of enlightenment, a love and compassion. So then that person may be enlightened, but we'll never be able to find. Enlightenment is something like this. It's like hunger. All of us have hunger. All of us have hunger, right? All of us, we want to eat food. Now, how much hungry you are, the person who is feeding you will not know. You only will know, oh, I'm full. Then you may say, I'm full. Or you may say, in between, I'm full. I don't want any more food. Nobody can judge you whether how you are hungry or full. Enlightenment is like that. When you are full, you have become peaceful. You say, I'm peaceful. You may not say also, you are peaceful. So enlightenment is a deep inner subjective experience where you become peaceful. Now, are there any signs of enlightenment? Yes, there are signs of enlightenment. Bhagavad Gita chapter 1257 to 1265 and many shlokas in Bhagavad Gita in other chapters also give the symptoms of enlightenment. They are called Sthitapratna Lakshana. Dukeshu anudigmanaha sukeshu vigataspраha vetaraga bhayakrodha sthitadi munuchyate. Not getting depressed when there is sorrow. Sukeshu vigataspраha dukeshu anudigmanaha vigata, not jumping with joy when joyful situation comes. Freedom from attraction, repulsion. Freedom from fear and anger. These are some signs. There are many other qualities. But the problem is, all these qualities are inner qualities. They are not external qualities. You cannot judge them. You cannot judge from outside who is Gnani, who is not Gnani, from the inner qualities. So, in other words, you'll never be able to find out who is Gnani or Adnani from outer symptoms. A Gnani may be having these inner qualities, still he may not show it. Or it may manifest in his activities, some of the activities. Now, to see these qualities are there or not, you need a very intimate relationship with the Gnani. You have to live with him. So, most of the people don't show their anger in their office, but at home they show angry. That means they are able to suppress anger. So, the person has anger or no anger, you cannot see him in one face. You should see him totally. Like that, to see a Gnani, to see a person totally in all aspects is very difficult for us. A Gnani's behavior in various circumstances you have to observe. That's why in the earlier days, when students go to disciple Guru will say, work in my ashram for some many months or years. So he'll take care of the cows, he'll do the cooking. What Guru is saying is that stay in my ashram, observe my behavior in various circumstances. Have I got this Sthitapratna quality? Shama, Dama, Tidiksha, Upadisha. When you leave and start observing, you get a very close understanding of the person. From a distance, can you please mute? From a distance, you cannot understand. So from a distance, it's very difficult to understand a person has all these qualities. Very difficult. You have to observe the person in all life circumstances and understand that the qualities are there. So that's why it is very difficult for you to understand who is a Gnani. Now, why do you want to evaluate Gnani? What is your purpose? What is the purpose of evaluating Gnani? Don't worry who is a Gnani or who is the Gnani. Give respect to everybody. So there are Jivan Muktas who are free. Though they are peaceful by themselves, they will not, for you, there's no use from them. For them, there is no use from you. Okay, if you meet a Jivan Mukta, if at all, who is peaceful, just give respect to him. Then there are Gnanis who are saints. They have realized themselves. There's a head transformation, hand transformation happened, and they're also service oriented. They are called Santas. They are called saints, Mahatmas. But they may not have the ability to teach. So they cannot be a guru for you. They cannot be realized master for you. Take blessings from them. Take inspiration from them. But if you have to evaluate who is a Gnani, only reason you have to evaluate Gnani is he fit to be my Sadguru, a realized master? Can I become his disciple? Can I learn from him? Can I become free, Jivan Mukta, by listening from him? Acharyas are there. They have very good knowledge. They can teach you, but they themselves are not transformed. Inner transformation is not there. And it is very difficult for you to understand what is inner transformation. Bhagavad Gita 2.57 to 2.65 tells about so many qualities, but not for evaluating anybody. It's for you to evaluate yourself, self-evaluation. If you come across a person and you are able to live with the person very closely for a long time, you can evaluate, oh, these qualities are there in this person also. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So then, a Santa, saint, has no ability to teach, but he is very good, compassionate, loving. Take blessing from him. Our evaluation is required only to understand who is my guru. Other people are not required to evaluate. Just give them respect. And don't even take a lot of teaching from them, because the teaching has to be very systematic and clear. Otherwise, the teaching will confuse you. Blessings are sufficient from them. So a realized master of Sadguru requires two characteristics. It's called Shrotriya and Brahmanishta. Shrotriya means you have to have the ability, you have to have the good understanding, the science of consciousness called Vedanta. And he should be a very good teacher. His teaching should be communicating. It should touch you. So that is a quality. Now, this quality you can find in Panditas also, or scholars also. But what you don't find is the inner transformation, and it's very difficult to evaluate. That inner transformation is called Brahmanishta. So, but some qualities you can see: the love and compassion, the attitude to service, and commitment to teaching and sharing Brahmadnana. These are all qualities of Brahmanishta. For you to have a Sadguru, you need to have Shrotriya and Brahmanishta required. Now, the Guru and Shishya is a two-way relationship. It's not one way. Like a boy marries a girl, the girl has to agree and boy has to agree. They have to agree. Like that, for a Shrotriya and Brahmanishta to get a Guru has to agree and you have to agree. You have to decide. You have to approach him. There should be a mutual relationship. That's called Guru and Shishya. Shrotriya, Brahmanishta, Guru is required. To evaluate a Brahmanishta quality is very difficult, but we can see love, compassion, service, the clarity of teaching, and commitment to teaching of Atmadnana, maybe some signs of a Brahmanishta Guru. So there are so many Gurus. There are so many Jivan Muktas. There are so many what you call enlightened beings. There will be so many Santas, Mahatmas. There will be so many Sadgurus. Now, everybody is not your Sadguru. Your Sadguru is one with whom you learn, who teaches you. His teaching transforms you. That is your Sadguru. And that person is called your Karana Guru. Other Sadgurus, you just give respect. It is like a boy wants to marry a girl. Now, for a boy, there are 100 girls. For a girl, there are 100 boys. Is it practical to evaluate each boy and girl for you? You can't. So 100 girls, you shortlist 2 or 3 and see is there matching between myself and this girl? So you go proceed to the evaluation of one or two. You don't get into the evaluation of everybody. Like that, don't get into evaluation of every gnani. Not possible, not required. So you have to evaluate, is this gnani fit to be my guru? He should be Shrotriya, he should be Brahmanishta. His qualities of Shrotriya and Brahmanishta should appear in his life. His life should be his teaching. So people teach from books. They are called Panditas, Acharyas. People who are able to, whose life is the teaching, they are called Sadguru. Now there may be many Sadgurus, but you have to find your Karana Guru. There are many girls. Finally, you have to find your life partner. There will be one person. Evaluation, you do the evaluation. Others don't. There also you understand clearly. You'll never be able to evaluate a Sadguru. You'll never be able to understand a realized master. It's like a primary school kid trying to evaluate who is a college guy. So now up to certain level we can do, but beyond certain level, it is our karmic impressions we will bring are there. It's like when you marry a girl, a certain level of evaluation you do, or a girl does some certain level of evaluation of boy. After that, you have to get married. There's no choice. That's why it said marriages are made in heaven. Why they are made in heaven? Your karmic impressions will decide who is a boy, who is a girl, who is husband and wife. Your karmic impressions. Similarly, who is guru, who is your shishya? That is determining your karmic impressions. You can't evaluate. You can do the evaluation to a certain extent. Finally, it's law of karma which will bring you to right guru, right master. That's why Sri Shankaracharya says very clearly, it's very difficult to get a human birth. Very impossible, almost impossible. So if you get a human birth, the desire to get Atmadnana is very difficult. Mumukshatva is very difficult. If you get Mumukshatva, to get a right master is very difficult. If you get a right master, right understanding is difficult. So all these four will happen if you have done good karma, good punya. Good punya only can make it happen. So by a certain extent, you can understand this person has the symptoms of enlightenment. This person has the ability to teach. But beyond that point, your the karmic impressions of universe, karmic impressions will drive you to the right guru. You will never be able to evaluate a gnani. So this question was asked to Ramana Maharshi. How do I find out my Sadguru? Who is my guru? So Ramana Maharshi said, it's difficult to evaluate who is a Sadguru, who is realized. Ramana says, please understand one thing. In whose presence, in whose interaction, you'll start feeling peace. In whose interaction, your mind becomes free from questions. Possibly that person is your Sadguru. So there are many Sadgurus, but your Karana Guru you have to find. So there are many girls who can marry boy, but finally one girl, one boy, one Guru, one Shishya. So that has to happen. That's called Karana Guru. Now, in his presence, you will not get answers to all your questions. He will make the questioner vanish. One who is asking the question will vanish. And then you start feeling peace. That person is your Sadguru, your Karana Guru. So, have I answered the question? Any questions are there on this? Follow-up questions on this?